Have you been trying to find happiness in your life recently? Is life just not going the way you want right now? Well, with today's sponsor, I'm here to fix that. Shrooms are starting to become more widely accepted around the world because it is labeled as one of the safest drugs out there, which it actually is. So, I'm here to tell you of a wonderful way to have a better look out on life without physically getting dependent on harmful substances. Schedule 35 is a company that sells shrooms at microdose levels to help with everyday life. Microdosing is consuming small, sub-perceptible amounts of a psychedelic substance, typically in the range of 50 to 250 milligrams. This dosage differs from a recreational dose as users are still able to function without any disruptive effects. Many users report an increase in focus, clarity, creativity, and empathy, among many other positive changes. I believe microdosing is much safer than your regular antidepressant anti-anxiety medication as they build up in your body and can cause horrible side effects in some people. If you are afraid to start these medications or you're on them now but want to stop, then Schedule 35 will hook you up with the best natural medicine you could find anywhere. They offer so many products that you can buy. You can purchase capsules, chocolates, and even teas. I don't know about you guys, but chocolates sound like the best option. Also with the capsules, there are other beneficial ingredients including ginseng, spirulina, bee pollen, and more. If you want to get started with microdosing, this is where you need to go to begin. Maybe just start with the starter pack and see if it works out for you. I will even help you to get it cheaper by getting 15% off your order with code TRIPKEEPER. So not only will this help you mentally, but it will also help your wallet too. You can also even jump straight into higher doses if you're already familiar with shrooms, which if you're watching my channel, then you probably are, let's be real. So give Schedule 35 a try today, and I know you won't be disappointed. Thank you, and let's get into the video. It was the summer after graduation, and it was the summer in a lot of ways. I had a lot of money and a carefree attitude. One fateful day, my friend Drew and I met a friend, Jay, by chance in a park, and he told us about how his cousin had given him some kind of strange plant, and you can apparently trip out from it. I was up for pretty much anything, minus heroin and meth. I'd vaguely heard of jimsonweed before, but wasn't very knowledgeable about it, other than from reading Castaneda. We said sure and drove to Jay's house. First, we smoked a joint, then we divvied up the 2 pods between the 3 of us. The seeds were little, clear, and somewhat bitter. We decided we didn't want to waste any of the plants, so we brewed a tea with the shells and drank it. Then we peeled off the inside skins of the pods and ate that. And finally we smoked the outer shell, then we smoked another joint. During the first 20 minutes, nothing too noticeable happened. Colors seemed more vibrant, and my throat was getting kind of dry. When I went to the bathroom to pee, very little actually came out. Jay decided we should go to a different nearby park as his parents would be coming home soon. As we were walking to the park, basically I felt the effects of being poisoned. I had jello legs and my eyes couldn't focus on anything specific for very long. When we got to the park, we walked over and basically slumped down at a picnic table. At this point, my throat was painfully dry. We had a jug of water, which I kept drinking voraciously. I also really had to pee. I walked in a secluded area behind some bushes and tried. Nothing. Frustrated, I jello walked back to the table and our friend G was randomly there. He was driving past and saw us. As he was talking to us, he could tell we were different and lackadaisical. "Oh, I didn't know what you guys took," he said, and started laughing. I could barely look at him. He told us to call him later and tell him how our experience was. Then some girl came and sat down at the table and started talking to us. There's a school nearby, so there's lots of people in and out of the park. I don't remember what she said. Jay said he had to go home and we thanked him for the Datura. Drew suggested we leave too, and we got in the Montero and left. Then the unadulterated insanity began. Note, do not drive whilst on jimsonweed, ever. We left at about 4 p.m. We pulled up to Drew's house around 9 to 9:30 with no memory of what happened in between. None at all. Anyway, as we pulled into Drew's street, we noticed a lot of our friends' cars lined up around his house. There appeared to be a party going on. We assumed it had something to do with Drew's brother. As we pulled in his driveway, the neighbor's cat ran right in front of us. We felt a bump and knew Drew had just run it over. He felt really bad about it. We walked inside, and sure enough, there's a party going on. We see about 20 or so of our friends drinking, laughing, and being loud. There were also strangers. Drew excused himself and went into his room as he felt bad about the cat still. I was talking with some friends, and I noticed my friend Preston, who was there, was crying blood. It looked like eyeshadow, a blood circle around his eyes. It was horrifically bizarre and he looked like he was in pain. "Are you okay?" I asked, and he just stared at me with an almost evil gaze, blood dripping from his face to the floor. I saw grotesque people I didn't realize, who looked like Sloth from the Goonies, but not in a comical way at all. They looked deformed, bruised, beaten, and burned as they shuffled around the house. Some were laughing maniacally, some crying, others just staring. It was unsettling to say the least. Things were also painted on. It's like a dream, and the 3D world is irrelevant. There were burnt cigarettes and tacks sticking sharp side up on the ground, and bizarre-looking plants pasted to the walls and doors. I then saw people with beet red skin crying blood. They looked like what you would expect demons to look like, just like every fairy tale or myth or religious text makes them out to be, minus perhaps wings. None of this seemed particularly odd to me at the time. I was confused who they were, but wasn't gripped with fear like I probably would have been was I sober. Some of these entities were having passionate, crazy sex in the back room, but they didn't look as if they were actually enjoying themselves. I kept hearing the sound of doors slamming. Drew came down to see what I was up to, and our friend Preston started talking to the both of us. "You guys are late. We were waiting for you," he said. "We didn't know this was going on," said Drew. "Where's Kyle?" I asked. Kyle is Drew's brother. "I haven't seen him yet," Preston replied. We talked, just the three of us, for a couple minutes, and then Drew excused himself to the bathroom. He couldn't pee the entire time either, and our throats were probably the driest they had ever been. It hurt to swallow. Then I met the spirit of the plant, Queen Talawachi, as she is known indigenously. She was pale, just not albino pale, but literally skin tone like the moon. She is also fond of tricks. I talked to her for a bit, though I will not share the conversation as I feel by doing so is disrespectful. I sat on the floor, still noticing the tacks which shimmered in my peripheral. My friend Chloe walked in through the kitchen, looking frail, beaten, and toothless. She explained that a group of Mexicans had just beaten and gang-raped her. I looked over at a towel and a clear cylinder on the table, only I didn't see the towel. I saw a talking head, and this head was Chloe's. She was crying hysterically, and Talawachi told me to give her a hug, which I did. I was literally hugging a beach towel in plastic. "Oh my god, Sam, what the fuck?" she gut-wrenchingly yelped, and then started crying. At this point, I honestly didn't know what to do, but my bladder felt like it was going to explode, so I said I'd be back and went downstairs to the bathroom. Drew's mom was playing solitaire on the computer and said hello to me. I waved and went into the bathroom. Chloe was sitting in the corner of the ceiling, laughing scarily. When I walked to the toilet, Chloe was standing in my way. "Chloe, can you please move? I have to pee like a racehorse." She just stared for a second and laughed. "Chloe, if you don't move, I'm going to pee on you." She just laughed again, louder. So that's what I tried to do. Again, almost nothing came out, but I did feel better. I went back upstairs. My dad was there randomly. He opened the front door and said, "Come on, kid, let's went." I wasn't expecting to see him there at all. "I'll meet you in the car." "All right," I thought, and went outside. He was nowhere to be found. I did see my friend Tom, though, in an orange car parked right outside. He beckoned me to get in. I couldn't. The door was locked. He kept waving me inside. "I can't," I said. Then Tom started laughing, and this actually irritated me. "Forget it," I shouted at him. I was confused where my dad went, so I sat by myself on the curb. The house across the street has a wood stovetop chimney on the roof, but I saw someone committing suicide by hanging himself instead. It was like an animated GIF. When my eyes moved at all, it would reset. When they stayed focused, the man walked off the roof with a noose and hung there, waving in the breeze. I should have mentioned this earlier, but all straight lines shook, like an episode of Dr. Katz. Everything flickered actually, like I was witnessing the erosion of time. I had seen that kind of thing before while on strong acid, just the lines, not anything else. I looked next to me. I'm still on the curb, and my friend Mike is by my side. "What's your problem, man?" he asked. "I don't honestly know, dude," I said. "I took this plant earlier, now I can't tell exactly what's going on." "That's fine and all, and that would be a good excuse if you weren't being such an asshole right now." I felt like I was an asshole, ruining everyone's time, and I didn't know why. I glanced in Drew's Montero and saw possibly the scariest thing out of this whole experience. There was a pale creature with no eyelids, with the most piercing stare I've ever seen in my entire life, sitting in the front passenger seat. His head was shaped almost like sharks, pointing at the top, and he had no lips and sharp shark-like teeth. In fact, it looked exactly like the Hellraiser character Butterball, minus the sunglasses, and paler. Just like in the movie, he said nothing. I had seen Hellraiser once before, when I was like 12, and I remember near to nothing from it. It wasn't until I saw that movie again that I made the connection. In fact, I'm fairly confident Clive Barker had taken Datura before, after going through this experience. And the fact he wore sunglasses in the movie, and in reality, call it what you will, had no eyelids at all, seems more than a coincidence to me. This powerful entity was the only one I could not look straight in the face. I tried avoiding his gaze the entire time. I looked at a tree in the front yard. I could see a ghostly essence in the tree itself. Actually, I could see the essence of all plant life. Chloe was right by that tree, falling over. I rushed to go help her, but she was painted on a tall piece of dead grass, blowing flimsily in the wind. I needed to pee again. I went inside through the garage, and somehow Chloe had beaten me there and was crying on a coat rack. "I don't want to live anymore," she cried, and it was apparent to me that she was hanging herself. "Chloe, no," I said, and reached to bring her down. It wasn't Chloe, it was just a coat. I put the coat back and entered the kitchen. Kyle was there. "Yo, Samwise, how's it going?" I actually thought about that question and laughed. "I don't know. How are you doing, Drew?" I asked a piece of paper which I thought was Drew, blowing from the fan. Kyle looked at me like I was the biggest dumbass in the world, and I don't blame him one bit. I went to the upstairs bathroom and the light didn't work, and the darkness seemed to make the vision stronger. The toilet seat was swirling and was fairly hypnotizing. I also saw what looked like a ghost or shadow creature on the floor next to the toilet, outlined by a translucent silver. He was completely two-dimensional and appeared to be asking for my help, though I couldn't actually hear anything he was saying. I finally peed, at least more than I had yet, and felt immensely better, though I felt sorry for the shadow creature. It was kind of a dusty bathroom and there were glowing insects attracted to the dust. They looked like ants, mini spiders, and other insects which probably didn't exist, and they looked bioluminescent. I put my finger on the ground and let one crawl onto it. I examined it more closely, and its movements were that exactly like a bug's would be. It had feelers and was feeling me. I clamped my fingers together lightly, and the insect crumbled like dust, its legs floating spirally to the ground. I went back downstairs, and Talawachi, still on the couch, asked, "Did you see the life upstairs?" I nodded. I looked around. Demons and deformed burn victims were still walking around nonchalantly. I went upstairs into Drew's room to see how he was doing. He was watching TV with Mike. Then we noticed the neighbor's yard via the window. It too was bizarre. There was a four-legged dog creature, very large and very black, with glowing red eyes, sitting on what looked like a throne on the side of a swimming pool. There were many people basically having a blood orgy, and massive amounts of steam were rising from the water. There were also dead squirrels which littered the ground, and all throughout the branches of a large tree were squirrel tails, hanging like evil Christmas ornaments. The dog, whom I later found out is the second spirit associated with Datura, or second half, depending on perspective. He is known sometimes as the guardian or protector and protects Talawachi, noticed us and beckoned us to come join them beyond the fence. Drew grabbed his binoculars and scoped out the scene. People were still having insatiable sex through a bunch of mist. However, with the binoculars, we saw everything in grave detail. I could see the hair on this demonic dog and the squirrel tails and everything in clear high definition. Me and Drew saw the same thing. Drew left to get a closer look, the dog and associates still beckoning us in. Drew went to the fence line, as I stayed upstairs watching with the binoculars. He almost jumped the fence to join them, but I tapped on the window and shook my head. He came back up. We were tired and wanted to go to sleep. Drew has bunk beds and Mike called the top bunk. I said fine, but asked that he at least give me my sleeping bag. He said no. "Just give him his sleeping bag, Mike," Drew said. No. I tried pulling it from him, but to no avail. Annoyed, I gave up and went in the guest room trying to sleep as a spy versus spy creature watched over me, which was very unsettling. I didn't actually sleep and woke up at around 7:30. I decided to read up on Datura. Only when I got to the computer to do so, I couldn't read text. My vision was okay, but when I tried reading text smaller than billboard size, it was out of focus. This lasted for 2 more days, and during this time I thought I was never going to be able to read again. Same with Drew. In fact, the trip lasted altogether for 3 days, and the residues of it, like my eyes playing tricks on me, lasted for almost 2 weeks. I'll cut the other 2 days out, as it's already been a fairly verbose story. Everyone was worried about us. They thought we were never coming down, and to be fair, neither did we. We saw Dr. Seuss creatures in trees, elves, gnomes, dwarves, pixies, demons, golems, all kinds of mythical, demonic, spiritual creatures. And everything Drew saw, I saw, and vice versa. We ran over a ghost with the car. Digital clocks would make Tamagotchi-like animations. It looked 8-bit. The auditory hallucinations did stop after the first night, the visuals mostly after the third night. On the third day, me, Drew, and a group of our friends went into a gazebo, a usual smoking spot, in a garden to smoke. I saw gnomes having sex in the trees. Little creatures would slowly bring antennas up out of the bushes, and whenever Drew and I would compare what we saw, our friends were like, "That's not fucking there, stop it." A train went by, we weren't that far from the tracks, and an obese naked woman was having sex with the tree just outside the garden. Every time she went down, the train blew its horn. The train was actually there, our friends acknowledged that. It was uncanny. She would stay down for 3 seconds, and the train would blow for 3 more. This experience has made me think about it every time I hear a train. I ran into Jay a few days later, and he thought we had never left. He hung out with us all throughout the night. Also, amazingly, Drew's parents, who were actually there the entire time, had no idea we were on anything. I don't know how. We were talking to people who weren't there, basically right in front of them. We were lucky in that respect. Afterthoughts. First of all, I'd like to say, do not take jimsonweed. 99.99% of everyone should never take this. It's all too common for someone to get arrested or end up in a psych ward, or even get shot from walking into someone else's house, not knowing what's going on. It's also very easy to be poisoned to death. People have died from it before. Also, you will be tested by the spirits, and if you fail, there can be dire consequences, particularly with the protector/wolf. It is not a pleasant high. In fact, there is no high. I felt completely normal despite the craziness I witnessed. It was kind of amazing I remember taking anything at all. That's not common. I didn't really think twice about what I was seeing, just like I probably don't in a dream. This is clearly a negative plane of existence. I don't know if I believe in hell, but there is one. This realm surely has some kind of correlation. Also, it has been said that Datura seeks you out, not the other way around. I deeply believe this to be true, and I believe that I was seeked out. I think Jay and Drew were caught in the crosshairs. To say this was all just in our minds is hard to justify. We interacted with people who weren't there simultaneously, witnessed the same things, and saw in blaring detail clear images through binoculars. I omitted much of what happened, largely because of length, and largely because much of what I experienced I consider sacred, particularly some of the conversations. Not holy per se, but sacred. Also, I found that the first encounter with an entheogen sets the tone for the rest of the relationship. Talawachi still visits me periodically in my dreams. All in all, I'm glad I experienced this, as I learned much, particularly about the nature of reality and realities.